And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPCast. Today, I'm joined by the trifecta. We have Josh, Erica, and Tom ready to rock on this Monday. It was one of those Mondays you wake up and you really wonder what you're going to talk about and think about how hard podcasting is sometimes. I say that in complete jest. We have the second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. And at this point, it happened on Saturday, I believe. The facts have kind of come out. We understand more about what's happening, fortunately, so we're able to do a little bit of the research. And I have a timeline. Although, Erica, you're pretty good at explaining. Here's my goal. I want to set out just a timeline of what happened, and then we can get into a little bit of the reactions. Would you lay out what we understand now about?
I can do this. Here I go. I'm going to rip. Sunday, that was yesterday. Was it only yesterday? It was September 15th, Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows. For those of you keeping track of which Marian feast day Trump got shot on this time, he wasn't actually shot. I'm just playing around with
Almost.
you. But right, he was playing round golf. He was between holes 5 and 6, I believe, at his own club, West Palm Beach. So this is early afternoon, and Secret Service agents were moving ahead of him by a hole, and they noticed on the 6th hole, there was the muzzle of an AK-47 style rifle sticking out of the bushes. This was on the 5th hole, sorry. Just 300 to 500 yards away from where Trump was playing golf. At the 4th hole, shots were fired. No one was injured. Trump was moved safely off the golf course, which upset him greatly because apparently he was doing very well in that round of golf. Gotta love his attitude.
I know the feeling.
It's like, what are you doing?
There's been times I've played well enough to be, if I heard shots, I'd be mad. I had to leave too.
My gosh. A witness actually saw the gunman getting away into a car. And there was a big chase on 95. The police shut it down, and they actually apprehended this suspect, who is now in custody, and I'm sure being subjected to a lot of questions, I hope. And let's just hope that the investigation, quote unquote, into this incident goes a little better than the Butler PA.
Yeah.
And we can know a little more sooner. But again, shots were fired. We believe they were all fired by the Secret Service. At this point, no one was hurt. They retrieved from the site the gun, a GoPro camera. The gunman was apparently intent on filming his assassination attempt. A couple of backpacks full of ceramic tiles, which apparently I learned, I was like, why ceramic tiles? You stuff them in your bulletproof vest to make it more bulletproof.
Interesting.
Learn something new every day. But again, that's the basic summary. Again, it was shocking. This is the second assassination attempt on former president, leading in the polls, just barely, but leading in the polls. And yeah, definitely put a wrench in the old stomach yesterday, once again.
So after the attempt on his life in Butler, people put out, little drinking glasses, little shot glasses with Trump's picture, with him holding the fist up. And it was like, Trump shot. And he meant it affectionately because they like Trump. And now we have to have some dude in the weeds or whatever, like at the golf course. So, so you can have 2 shots. Pretty soon you're going to not be able to drink anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Now, you said, I hope this investigation goes better. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has stepped forward and said he's going to take over the investigation. Insofar as he's able to do so, I think that would be welcome. Although I'm sure the Secret Service is going to put the squeeze on stuff because they have jurisdiction on this. But I hope DeSantis keeps us in, up to speed on everything that's going on. The commentary, I'm loving some of the good conservatives on Twitter here. Amelia Hammy, she says, love trumping hate involves a whole lot more gunfire than I would have expected.
I mean, I just want to preface all this. Another attempt was made on the life of President Trump. Pray for him. It's almost unbelievable to the point where we make jokes. You either laugh or you cry at this point. It's crazy to me that this is the second time.
Well, and again, the leftists, the way they seem perfectly okay with violence, and
right.
There was the January 6th mob that went a little crazy, but no one on ours, no cops were killed. It was, in fact, a protester on the January 6th said they got killed, Ashley Babbitt. But if you think about it, as Joe Barry said, and he's been on fire on Twitter lately, all the people with love your neighbor and hate has no home here are sure really mad that the shooter missed. And it's like, what is going on? you just see way too much commentary on this. Like someone's like, Rachel Vickman's like, oh, no ears were damaged. Go on with your Sunday afternoon. They're just making light of this. And then all this, Lester Holt on NBC, he said today's apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance, continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants. It's like, what in the heck is this? Blaming the victim stuff,
right?
And sadly, not the only one who said this. These people are monsters. It's like, what is with you?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm interested to see how fast they memory hole this one as well. I mean, the Butler, like we're aware that Butler happened and we remember it because of the circles that we move in, because of our concerns. But if you are watching the mainstream media, it's like it never happened. Like if all you watch is MSNBC or CNN, it didn't even come up in the debate, right? You would think there would be
even interrupt the NFL broadcast. Like there's a shot at Kamala Harris, that.
Oh, well,
they would postpone the
they would.
To be completely clear,
they've done the Black National Anthem again, and all this crap.
To be clear, they would have postponed the election for democracy reasons. If the shot was taken at Kamala Harris. But
like Time Magazine was saying, again, they were saying, Time Magazine described the guy Ryan Roth, who attempted to take Trump's life here. They said he had an unclear political ideology. Okay, just so we understand this, they think he has an unclear political ideology. The guy who was going to try to kill Trump yesterday at the golf course, he had a Biden-Harris sticker on his truck, and he donated to Democrats 20 times. But the media says unclear political ideology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get into a little bit. So I think one notable challenge to memory holding this is that we actually do have the shooter in custody. Now, that hasn't stopped things before, but I do want to say a major difference is the life was taken of Thomas Crooks immediately by the Secret Service. So what's interesting to me, and people have kind of bopped around different ways, it'd be interesting to talk to professional Secret Service members. But what would have happened, because this is not, by the way, this course in West Palm is not a private, it's not a public course. So you can't even see the holes from the highway. So it's not like someone could really just walk up and get a clear shot on most public courses we're used to. It's covered by greenery. So he was holed up in the fence with a scope, with plates around him. It's clear that there was some type of setup here. And what usually happens with Secret Service, if you were the president, the entire course would have been cleared. But because he's not the sitting president, is the rationale that's been told by the sheriff, they clear 1 to 2 holes ahead. And the only reason he's alive today is because the Secret Service member noticed a scope and a rifle coming out of the chain link fence, started taking shots. So we have him. His name is Ryan Ruth. And really, Ryan Wesley Ruth, 58 years old, very interesting. Josh already mentioned his political contributions. It's not hard to kind of read between the lines here, but he has some really interesting connections to Ukraine. So he essentially, and what we need answers for, in my opinion. So if you look at here, the alleged Trump shooter has given multiple interviews to U.S. news outlets touting his ties to international mercenary groups in Ukraine, including spending months in the country and meeting in the defense ministry. He's also written a book about encouraging Iran to assassinate President Trump for his lack of Ukraine support. So here's a quick quote from the book. Most Ukrainian authorities do not want these soldiers, said Ryan Ruth, head of the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine, private organization which helps foreigners seeking to assist the war effort, connect military units and aid groups. I have had partners with Ukraine's Ministry of Defense every week, had meetings with these partners, and still have not been able to get them to agree to issue one single visa. So he's basically helped sneak people in, I believe through Pakistan illegally, to go fight in Ukraine. What this suggests to me, though, is that he's met with some very high-level individuals in either the intelligence community, the military community. It's not like this guy was a nobody. It appears like he was kind of crazy, no question. But we have a lot of things that need to be answered, specifically on his background. And shout out to Sagar and Gentry for that find. But yeah, very suspect background. He's also appeared in political ads. I have a video here. Something he also had in common with the other would-be assassin, Thomas Crooks. So you can find him here. I think there he is.
Most of the action.
Bam. So yeah, it's not like this guy is a nobody. It's almost like this stuff is too crazy to make up, but he's been on the map. we're going to need some answers. It's going to be harder for this one to go away because he's clearly alive. And I don't know. Will we get some answers?
He's so dedicated to the Ukraine that he's trying to get people to volunteer from this country to go fight that war. It's like, I mean, I guess, wow. So he must think Trump is crazy for not being, maniacally obsessed with this war. And again, it's like the same reason that the Cheneys abandoned their support. Because remember, the Cheneys supported Trump for many years when they needed to get Liz elected in Wyoming. But then once she lost, they turned on him like a dime. And especially since he didn't go for the Ukraine war. Like somebody made this point on Twitter. You look at the previous four presidents, and they started 10 wars, and no one took a shot at any one of them. But this guy doesn't want to do worse than wow, 2 shots already. Maybe the war machine doesn't like this. I don't know. But
a few more final things on him real quick.
Said it well. When you think about everything that's going on right now, she says we need some common sense Democrat control.
I love Peachy.
But yeah, I had a few more final weird things. So he actually did vote for Trump in 2016, but did donate 2019, 2020, voted for President Biden in 2020. And then also he wrote this book, as I mentioned before, but he had a criminal record. So he had a run-in with the law, arrested in 2002 for possessing a fully automatic machine gun. So legally speaking, he couldn't even had this gun. So more and more of this speaks to some type of coordination or a larger effort. I saw here someone said it wasn't even on his schedule for Trump to be golfing at this golf course. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered at this point. And when we get those answers, we'll bring them more. First off, just want to give a heads up. The show might run a little bit long. We have a lot to talk about today. And a warm welcome to everyone here in the chat, especially if you're new. Thank you guys for joining. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So if you can leave a like and subscribe, we appreciate it. But now's the fun part. I mean, not the fun part. We get into some of the media reactions.
Fun now?
Okay. Yeah, as if this is fun now.
Different notes here. No, it's okay.
So we all kind of have our favorite reactions to this happening. A lot initially were discounting it, saying that it wasn't happening, whatever. Now that we do know it's happened, we're getting kind of the spin machine from MSNBC and CNN. Sorry to be selfish, but I'd like to start with my personal favorite. We have from CNN, a national security expert saying this about the event.
I don't care what you feel about him or Harris. This is the expectation that he will be safe, and the reason why this is, in some ways, you said how close the election is. The problem is this is a safety issue that is being thrown into a very intense political environment in which the very fact of an assassination, a constitutional moment, because it could have impacted voters, will be used for political purposes, and that to me is just exceptionally unfortunate, because whatever your beliefs are, we do deserve to have campaigns that are not where violence isn't being used as either a sword or a shield.
That is exceptional.
Did she just say what I thought she said?
What do you think she said, Erica? You want to give a recap?
So what I think she just said was the greatest tragedy that could come out of this moment is if somehow the Trump-Vance campaign uses this attack on them to get ahead in the election, to get more votes.
Exceptionally unfortunate, direct quote.
It would be exceptionally unfortunate to use violence politically. So what are they supposed to do? Like, not mention it ever? Like, he's been shot twice? Oh my gosh.
Now, I do
the only thing that she's upset about is that they missed.
I do a bad Norm Macdonald impression, but, I thought the most unfortunate part was the assassination, personally.
Yeah. That would be it.
Interesting.
Like that we are in an environment.
That's obviously true. They don't believe that.
Right.
Yeah, no. I know. And this is the same woman, by the way. I got her. I think I showed you guys this during the debate. Said it's such a minor point, but I cannot stop thinking that Trump casually calling the head of the Taliban Abdul is the perfect mix of his ignorance, racism, and senility in just a single word. And yes, the leader of the Taliban at the time's name was Abdul.
Was put in and he was on the phone with Trump.
And these are the people that go around the circuit, right? She's a professor here at the Kennedy School at Harvard. She's a CNN national security analyst. She writes for The Atlantic. She's a consultant. Obama under the Department of Homeland Security. These are the experts, quote unquote, coming on and saying, wow, it's really unfortunate they didn't get him that time.
What was unfortunate is that people might be sympathetic about Trump and vote for him and elect him president. That would be unfortunate. What was unfortunate, apparently, was not that someone tried to kill him.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you mentioned the Norm Macdonald thing, and you kind of stepped on the joke because some people may not know it. It was Norm Macdonald made this point. Go, yeah, Bill Cosby's. He's, everyone thinks he's like a family guy, and all those accusations came out, and someone said, oh, I think the worst part was, the hypocrisy, and oh, okay, yeah. He's like, I kind of think it was the raping was the worst part.
Yeah. That's not probably what was bad.
Such a great
love Norm.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that is true.
Shout out Norm.
Oh my gosh.
And then the other main one that I've seen going around was from MSNBC. Essentially, well, you guys can watch and determine for yourselves. Here we go.
Do you expect there to be calls from within the Trump campaign to do that? Because he's going to reach out to his supporters and say, let's take this down. We do not know, again, the source of any gunshot or gunshots. We don't know who's responsible for this. The whole thing has yet to be 100% confirmed from start to finish how this all played out. But do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
Well, Alex, remember back to the assassination attempt on President Trump's life and how, there was talk of a new tone, and then the Republican convention was, by Trumpian standards, muted. And it did seem like he was, just trying to take it down a few notches. But then by the end of his convention speech, we were kind of back to where we started. So I don't know how long this could, this moment of unity for the country where we come together and we say, I don't want any political opposition to be under threat of violence. It's not okay, any threat of violence, we don't want. I would love for us to have a unity type moment, but I think it's probably going to be pretty fleeting, as we've seen in the past.
Did you see what she was wearing? She deserved it.
Exactly. She was wearing a mini skirt, so she deserved it. I just can't stand the blame the victim thing. And do you hear how she has to hold herself back from using the word but? She's like, I don't want political violence. We need unity moment. Like she almost said the word, but I don't like assassinations, but I don't like killing, but I don't like shooting at people. But she had to hold herself back from saying that because it's what they really think. It's just,
yeah. I mean, it's again,
didn't Biden say that Trump was an existential threat? Didn't Time Magazine have a Hitler-Trump cover on the magazine?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
it's almost like they're lying.
He said the line, guys. The chat goes wild.
Yeah, it's again, it's almost hard now for these MSNBCs and the CNNs to try to reverse course and seem like the mature adults, the unity adults in the room after doing all of this. So I guess, should we expect anything less? I don't know, but it's sad that it feels we're almost getting desensitized to attempts on presidential candidates' lives in America, right?
Right. I mean, I guess I wish they would stop lecturing us about, threats to democracy and just tell their members of the Democratic Party to put their guns down. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I did one of my favorite, again, I'm sorry we got to go humorous with this because you laugh or you cry, but one of the best memes I saw was liberals, we hate guns, take them away. And it's also liberals anytime Trump is in town, and it was Jason Bourne behind a scope.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, it's not just Trump. That's not just two attempts on Trump. I mean, there's an attempted assassination of Justice Kavanaugh because people wanted a different result in Roe v. Wade. And there was an attempted assassination of just about everyone on the congressional softball team, including, House Whip Steve Scalise. So this idea, like, it's just an anomaly. Like, a whole lot of the violence is all on one side.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, one of my other favorite ones was there's a Venn diagram with Harris and Trump's faces. And one of them said, gets shot, and one of them says media interviews, and then they like intersected in the number 2 because now she's given 2 interviews and he's been shot twice. That was pretty great. Or I wish the media had as much access to Harris as the shooters do to Trump. Like, yeah.
Oh, my favorite meme was, again, you have to laugh, but it shows Kamala Harris, calling, and Trump on a phone call. You see that one?
No.
Oh, we did it, Joe? Or
knock knock. Who's there? Owen. Owen who? And Trump says, 0-2, baby.
Yeah. 0-2 line.
Still haven't got me.
Oh my God.
I mean, I also saw too. This was pretty much hours after the second assassination attempt. We get 60 Minutes airing a piece on January 6th.
Oh my gosh.
To attack him as threat to democracy. And I mean, whether or not they knew at that point, it still doesn't matter. These are obviously very connected threats. And one of the things that I saw thrown around too was the cats and the dogs thing basically brought this upon him because he's inciting violence against the immigrant community in Ohio through his words.
Oh, actually, Tom, do you have the clip?
Oh yeah, Josh, I was setting up.
Come on, baby.
I was setting up.
People,
so
come on.
Strap in your seats. I have a lot on the cats and dogs. I have a lot in Springfield. I know we've talked about this a lot, but J.D. Vance went on, what is this here? State of the Union with CNN, talking to Dana Bash, who also interviewed Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Much different interviews. You might notice some differences. This is a little bit of a longer clip. I might scrub through it, but this was basically his response to the blame game of, well, he kind of deserved it because he was talking about all this going on. So here you go. We got J.D. Vance.
So good.
Dana Bash.
How these people are suffering, that's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims. Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things.
Chris Rufo.
And then
That's
going
Chris
just back
Rufo.
to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help. But you're not just a bystander. You're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator, this happened after you and President Trump were on the debate stage, said that cats and dogs were being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it. What we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Yes. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protective status. Right. That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the border and further caused terrible migration into this country.
You might not agree with the policy.
Interesting interview style.
Which is totally fair and legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time. But the fact is that it is the law because President Biden and Vice President Harris are. But I don't want to frankly go down.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole that I brought up.
Policy because
you made a point. You don't. I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No,
Dana,
what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about.
Instead of about the fact,
Senator,
that
it was
Harris,
your distraction.
Dana, granted amnesty.
You were the one who started talking about eating dogs and cats.
Level.
You were the one who brought this
my
up. The president said it to 60 million people.
Cats, and I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about it.
Have you been
to
Springfield?
It is my responsibility to surface their concerns when the American media.
Have you been to Springfield?
I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about recently, since you've heard
ice cream at Young's Jersey Dairy?
Have you heard recently since you've gotten these calls?
Have I been in the last 4 days?
No,
I'm
talking
I haven't been
about
in the last 4 days, but I've
since
talked
you've
to a lot
gotten
of
these
people
calls
in
from the
Springfield,
constituents.
Dana, and they're telling me this stuff is happening. Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes, I am, and I think that if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were making unsubstantiated claims that had racist undertones about people eating dogs and cats, and they didn't answer the questions about that, then I would have similar interactions with them.
Boy, do I have a lot to say
you would,
about
darling.
this.
I really don't think you would.
So, I mean, I even went back to the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz transcript. And my personal favorite part of the transcript was when she asked Tim Walz, hey, you said you carried weapons of war into war on your campaign trail, and you never did. What do you think about that? He said, well, my wife always says I have a big heart and I made a grammatical error there. And then
grammatical error.
This is exactly what happened. She took it at face value and moved on. Which is just how the presidential debate went, if you will remember. She didn't say, I don't know, that sounds like a terrible lie. Why would you think you really expect people to believe that you made a grammatical error multiple times when insinuating you went to war? No, I mean, that didn't happen. So,
but Pogo, no. But Tim Walz did not bring up kittens and puppy dogs. Had he brought up cats and dogs, she would have totally been all over him.
Erica, where's PETA? Where is PETA right now?
They should be and other, MSNBC and she's CNN and other MSNBC people, when they interview Democrats, it's like they're being interviewed by their own mom. Now, tell us what happened. There's a good reason that happened, right? I know they're attacking you for that, but give us what really happened. Oh, okay, thank you. I mean, it's like, really? And then they come out, like ready to punch at every last little word, every other word. But man, I tell you, everyone in the Beltway was freaked out when Trump picked J.D. Vance as his running mate. And everyone was like, oh, it's going to be a terrible pick. He is a phenomenal pick.
Yep.
And I can't wait to see that debate with, Tim Walz. Someone else mentioned
I doubt
that. Fact is, my boss, Brian Birch, thinks that Walz is going to find a way to chicken out.
He's not going to do it. I guarantee it. He'll find his way out of the war zone. So a few other points on that, too, because we're getting back to the substance of it, right? We're arguing about what has now become the hottest conversation is immigration and what the heck is happening in Springfield. We're not even really talking at this point about apartment complexes being taken over by Venezuelan gangs or other examples going on. The real question here is substantiating the claim that animals are being eaten in Springfield, Ohio. Okay? Right. So now I have a few contributions I'd like to add. So one, here's a New York Post article. Feds city crack down on animal sacrifices in New York City's Jamaica Bay after dog carcass with snapped neck and wounded pigs found. So to be fair, not in New York City, but again, these are immigrants coming into the country. Unless they're saying Americans doing it, I don't know. That's the first one. The second one is what she's referring to specifically is Chris Rufo at the Manhattan Institute put out a bounty, quote unquote, $5,000 if someone could find an example, a credible evidence that animals were being eaten. And sure enough, he actually didn't even want the reward. He found a video of a cat being grilled in Ohio. And so we have verified with multiple witnesses and visual cross-references that African migrants in Dayton, the next city over from Springfield, barbecued these cats last summer. Here you go. We got video. Right? And so now we're getting arguments of, well, that's not Springfield. Well, that happened a while ago. But Chris Rufo actually took to task a lot of these concerns. And this is almost hard for me to emphasize this enough, because you just watched that interview with Dana Bash and CNN. And she's saying that she has no sources saying this is true. But if you watch her conduct that interview, it was basically disgraceful to the point where I wouldn't trust anything that came out of her mouth, because she wouldn't even let JD Vance speak. So I'm at the point now, and I think a lot of people should be, if I see anything from CNN and they claim sources, or if, I don't know, 51 intelligence leaders say that something isn't true, I'm looking into it a little bit more myself. And so Chris Rufo goes on this long thread about how CBS News had published a response to the Cat Eaters of Ohio story. It's supremely dishonest and completely partisan report. So he details what he did. And this is almost, in my mind, I assumed that this was being done about this Springfield story from major news outlets, because that's what journalism is. And so he went into everything he did for it. He said he went into sourcing, an individual in his personal social network reached out with a tip, and they went and tracked it down. They got an eyewitness account. Our interview with eyewitnesses matched the details of the original video and was unambiguous in its conclusion. The African dude next to the door had the damn cat on the grill. They was barbecuing the damn cat. The eyewitness was familiar with the African families in the housing complex. His son played with their children, and his child's mother, who lived next door to the Africans, had observed them on at least one occasion butchering a large mammal on the street. They did field interviews. Field reporters spoke with half dozen people in the housing complex who confirmed following details. All of the residents of that complex were migrants from Africa, most commonly the Congo. They were familiar with the eyewitnesses, his child's mother, et cetera, et cetera. Background research. Our research team learned there was a tradition of cat eating in the Congo and surrounding nations. We learned that at least since 2021, Dayton has accommodated a relatively large number of migrants from the Congo. Chicken farmer interview. This farmer, who has processed thousands of animals per year, confirmed that it could not be a chicken in the video. The most obvious evidence is that the claws on the grill are facing the wrong way for it to be an avian creature. I'm not going to get into all the gory details there. Surgeon interview. The surgeon, who has also practical experience with animals, explained that the proportions of the animal, particularly the ilium to scapula distance, and resemble a mammal, more specifically a cat, rather than the chicken. Goes into their conclusion. Right. So he did all of this work, found a legitimate video.
This is journalism 101. Like these are.
Which was asked for, specifically requested, and being denied by the ABC moderators, by CBS, by CNN with Dana Bash. He went and found everything that they were asking for and actually did journalism. We covered on the Friday show, Tyler Oliveira went into the ground and was asking people there, what is going on? JD Vance is coming and saying, my constituents are telling me what's going on. But none of that is good enough for these people.
Tom. The corporate media called the city bureaucrat who said everything's fine.
Right. And it's just, this is so classic that when Dana Bash says there are no credible sources, it's because what the mainstream corporate media has done is they have decided who is an acceptable witness. And the only acceptable witnesses are people who are signed up, part of the machine, the company men, like the city bureaucrats. They're like, well, what about this witness? And we can offer all this evidence. Chris Rufo can do the job. All of these things that you would actually do if you were a real journalist. But because they've decided that evidence doesn't count as evidence, that's what they say. There is no credible evidence. It's not 100%, credible.
Erica. They decide, the corporate media decides whether or not to make a story important or not. And they decide whether or not they're going to put any investigative power behind it or not. If they found out that J6 rioters were eating cats, boy, we would hear about it all day long, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
That's true.
At a really fundamental level, though, and maybe this is just me re-encountering the problems with modern day journalism, it bothers me that people do not care about the truth on a really fundamental level as someone who cares about the truth, or at least doing the proper steps to try to expose all the elements to a story. And I just think the Springfield thing is just going to appreciate over time, because if you look into it again, and what JD Vance is saying, I've elevated what my constituents are telling me. And the real story is, why are there 20,000 Haitian migrants in a small town in Ohio over the last 2 years? I like that he even went into the legal or illegal stipulation.
Yeah, that was awesome.
They're not. They're there on temporary protected status. Now, whether or not and again, I'm not even anti-Haitian by any means, but as a country with sovereign borders, you have to look and say, is this best for our country? Is this best to even pop these Haitians here to begin with? Is it best that they get federal funds to go to housing, kicking out other Americans? The tension it's creating between Haitians and Americans within this small town in Ohio, is that good and productive? Is it good for either side? There's clear tension in all the videos you see. It's great that this is coming forward. If this would not have been elevated to a national stage, I would have no idea about it. And I'm someone that's looking at stuff all the time. Maybe that's what really bothers me about this. I think there's more of this going on in other parts of the country we just don't know about yet. And so people talking about the strategic or ethical whatever of elevating this, it's almost besides the point to me. This is going on, and as someone that cares about what's going on in our own country, people should know about it. So I'm just frustrated with the whole machine right now.
On the legal illegal thing, Dana Bash making this point, like she kept coming back. Well, it's legal. There's a rule that says it's okay to do the temporary protected status. That is, I'm constantly shocked when I speak to people in my family, in my parish, around who, if something is technically legal, that it's somehow morally okay. Well, it's not illegal, right? And
just
you're
like
just
abortion.
Like, okay, slavery was legal, right? Abortion, legal. These things and she just wants to shut down the conversation just because there's a rule that the Biden-Harris administration put out there does not mean that we just don't talk about it. But that's what the mainstream media has done. They're like, well,
it's legal, but is it moral? And the question is, if you bring in 100,000 Haitians, why would you take 20,000 of them and put them in a town of Springfield?
In one town.
40,000 people. That's not that smart. And again, it's like, I don't want to pick on Haitians. I mean, I guess, but like, I would love to try to find a way to make Haiti be better. Okay. Because the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of problems in that island. Yeah. Haiti and the Dominican Republic share the island of Hispaniola. And the Wall Street Journal was reporting back in May, before all this thing, back in March, before anything went viral. What? That the Dominican Republic is building a wall.
I mean, again,
between them and Haiti, and it's going to be a 250-mile border between the two on this, because they share this island, and they're building a wall because they're like, this is crazy. There's chaos, there's havoc in that nation, and we don't want them all just coming into this own country. And we have this view, like in the United States, like we're so prosperous, we're so wealthy that what you're going to say no? How can you say no to this person? Well, if you don't say no to somebody, eventually, what are we going to have? A billion Chinamen in our country? You can't say yes to everybody. So you have to have some discretion here. You have to be able to say, my first priority is to make sure that the citizens of our own country are taken care of. And so it just, do you think it does? There's a lot of working poor families in this country that are struggling to pay for the bills, or struggling to pay for groceries. Gas is higher now that they killed the Keystone Exxon pipeline. And they're trying to think, how can I pay for something? And then they think, oh, well, someone who entered this country. Now, I know the Haitians is temporary legal status, it's legal, but they see what's going on. The South Americans crossing the border, and then they get transported to places, and they get hotels, and they get debit cards, and you're like, where's all that stuff for me? Where's the help to pay for my groceries? And it's like, it's a joke.
It's an easy subsidiarity, solidarity argument, right? Like solidarity, we're tied to our fellow man, we're all the body of Christ. But then subsidiarity is you need to take care of the people most immediate to you first.
Right. You have more of an obligation.
In this country by wealthy suburbanites who have tremendous guilt about the fact that their moms and dads and grandparents worked really hard to build a nest egg and build a better future for their children and grandchildren. And the way that these guilty suburbanites are doing it, are repaying it, like atoning, as I said, for their sins, is to do Black Lives Matter and to say, yes, 100,000 Haitians, that'd be great. I'm not even against giving these people aid, but like, go into Haiti and like take out the guy who the leader of the country who's barbecuing people and like get him out of there.
I could go on about CIA influence in Haiti. The CIA has long been involved in Haiti.
It's like it drives me crazy. Like if you ask white suburbanite liberals, like what is the worst sin you could ever think about, and it's like to be a colonial power. That's the worst thing.
Colonialism.
And it's like, really? Like that's worse? Like that we're just going to have every person in Haiti just come into the country? Like how does that make it? But in fact, what the liberals want to do is they want to do reverse colonization, right? Mm-hmm. That's again, Joel Berry on top of it with the tweets this weekend. He said, for leftists, mass migration isn't about compassion. It's revenge colonization. This is about tearing down a culture they deeply hate.
Right.
That's what's going on. So if you want to help 100,000 Haitians, I'm not against foreign aid for a country like that needs it, but I don't want it to be wasted. But yeah, do something better than just to let them suffer. A small town in Ohio.
Sorry, Eric, I wanted to give you a chance. Did you have anything else you wanted to say on that before I?
No, I'm going to rest my case on this one. I'm
Rest
100%
your case.
with Josh.
I did have something that I actually wanted to talk about last show, but it was so good I have to bring it up again this show. So one of my favorite whoppers from the debate stage was about us not being involved in foreign wars right now. We have no soldiers elsewhere. So here's the CNN clip or ABC clip reacting to that.
Terry, I want to ask you about her comments about the military. She said during the debate this about the U.S. military. Let's listen.
As of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
Our fact checkers found that to be false, and I have a lot of experience in that area as well. There are currently 900 U.S. military personnel in Syria, 2,500 U.S. troops in Iraq. All have been under regular threat from drones and missiles for months. We also have action in the Red Sea. We also, every single day, the Navy SEALs, Delta Forces, special operators can be part of any sort of deadly raid. So why would she make that claim?
Well, I think what's important here, Martha, is that Kamala Harris, in contrast to Donald Trump, demonstrated herself to be commander-in-chief. We are in a world where there are all sorts of conflicts, and it's all the more reason we need somebody who's serious and who supports the military. And just remember,
but Governor, excuse me, but she said there is not one member.
Right. Now, that kind of gives you a flavor. This is the best fact check I've ever seen. I think there might be some language, so just a heads up. But this is, I've never seen a better one than this. Just let's go.
And Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world the first time this century. What? But let's understand.
So where the fuck are we right now?
And just for anyone on the audio, that was a tent full of active duty United States military members watching this debate from a combat zone.
From a combat zone. Like,
that was great. That was awesome.
And an actual combat zone, not a Tim Walz pretend combat zone.
Seriously.
Right.
I mean.
Oh, man. Wait, who was that governor? I missed the name.
I don't even know who it was.
Who was that, Mercer? That
Maura Healey?
No, that's the governor of Massachusetts then.
There you go. That's man. The important thing is she demonstrated she's the commander-in-chief. She has no idea where her military is.
The best. Like, shout out to the boys in the tent, man, just serving the country. But I mean, to be fair, what are we doing out here? Okay. So did we have we have a new ad.
Yeah.
Yes, dude. Come on, roll it.
Well, where is it?
So my Twitter won't load.
Is it on Catholic Votes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Sorry, I meant to send it to you.
This is podcasting. Okay.
Oh, it's on to 2 hours. We just, Catholic Arena also retweeted it.
Is it the Michigan one? In Michigan, 35?
Yep. There you go.
Right,
14 hours ago, yeah.
30 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Yeah, Josh, I'm going to need a little bit more info from this is...
Just in, Medicaid data.
Sorry, I'm going to run that.
Just in, Medicaid data shows 35 underage girls had their breasts completely removed. 7 underage girls underwent hysterectomies. Sex change operations attempting to make young boys into girls. Testicle removal. Sound weird? Disgusting? It is, and you're paying for it. Kamala Harris supports these taxpayer-funded sex change operations. A vote for Harris. A vote for medical experiments on kids.
All right. Josh, what was the origins in this ad? Why did we decide to do it?
I mean, it's not just that she supports it, but it's like we got the data. We found the data, from all the different hospitals and how they got Medicaid reimbursements for it. So this is your taxpayer money at work to pay for sex change operations, not on adults. We're talking about on kids, on children under the age of 18. And we have the data, we have the numbers. And so we're running this ad in Michigan to emphasize, here's what happened in Michigan. That all referenced data from just the state of Michigan. That's not nationwide. And then we're running this ad with the data for Pennsylvania in markets inside of Pennsylvania as well. So, and we're doing it in Wisconsin as well. So we're letting the good people know out there, hey, your tax money is being used to mutilate the genitals of young boys and girls. And if that sounds too disgusting, I don't want to hear it. It's like, what's more disgusting? I think what's more disgusting is that it's happening.
Right.
And they're going to probably shoot the messenger and they're going to complain about how Catholic vote and unseemly, but it's like, these are records. We looked at the data. Like this is what the hospitals report. They report this data and they report whether or not it got paid by Medicaid or not. Like, so
we got an email.
This is your vice president. She supports this.
So we got an email.
She wants another 4 years.
To that point, Josh, and I did want to get you're alluding to this, but basically saw the news about the new advertisement from CV about federal funding. So disgusting and infuriating. Had a question about it. Was the ad the right tone to move undecided and Harris voters in the election? After all, first impressions mean a lot when you see these things, and after my first impression, it screamed scare tactic, the tone, large bold stamps in text in red. I think there was ominous music in the background. My concern is that people, at least people like me, immediately dismiss such advertising seen, heard, or received in the mail as just more propaganda. If it had been presented in a different way, a more objective, factual, decide for yourself sort of way, would it be better received? I'm no marketing expert. Psychologists have my experience in wondering if others feel the same. What would you say?
Yeah,
to
I don't
that
know.
kind of
It's tough. I mean, people always say negative ads don't work, or these kind of tones don't work, and yet it's because you ask people, do you like these kind of ads, and everyone's like, no, yuck, it makes me sick. But it's like, does it change opinions? Does it move the needle? And in fact, the evidence suggests that it does in fact change the needle. So I mean, again, it's one of those things where if you want to support Kamala Harris, I want you to feel sick that you're supporting this. It's like, look, this is what's going on. And by the way, England, other countries in Europe have said, you know what? Whoa. We can't do this anymore. Sex changes on kids? No. Wait till you're 18. If you're an adult, if you still want to mutilate your body, whatever. But don't do it on kids. They're too young to make these kind of decisions. That's why we don't let kids get tattoos. That's why we don't encourage kids to have sex. All these are adult decisions that have large ramifications on your body and your soul. And we say, no, it's not a good idea. And yet Kamala Harris thinks it's a great idea and thinks you should pay for it.
Yeah. The whole negative, like the negative ad thing, I think there's definitely a place for it. And honestly, I feel like we're there as a country. When I was younger, I was very much against like using images of aborted fetuses that had been obtained because I was like, well, it's putting the women in a bad spot or blah, blah, blah. But as I've grown older, I think that everyone who supports a pro-choice candidate should do themselves the justice really of looking at photos of aborted children, of knowing how that procedure actually works, because they're supporting that. And as
Not
I
sure
think
it's effective though, with regards to mutilated children. But the fact is, when you speak of that, like, you know, it'd be great if Kamala Harris, if you know you love abortion so much, why don't you observe one happening and tell us all about how great it is? And of course, she is the first vice president to ever visit an abortion mill.
Yeah, you can be sure she wasn't involved in an actual abortion, though. Never get her hands dirty like that.
It is interesting, though, that this debate happens with showing the effects of gender mutilation surgeries. The same debates kind of happen, like people getting mastectomies, kids getting mastectomies. Do we show that? Like, is that a problem?
Well, we in this ad, so to kind of push back at Erica a little bit here, we actually don't show pictures of kids who, you know, are mutilated, like that kind of stuff. We just describe it. You know, we describe the evil.
You describe it graphically, though, and I think that's what the person writing in was
through words, not vision. We're not showing, you know, mutilated children.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, important to know if you watch this, you won't see that, no question.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's like we're still going to afford these children the dignity that are being robbed from them by a maniacal, you know, industry and a political party that is perfectly happy with exploiting them. And I don't know what's their ideology here. It's an attack on the family, you know, and I don't know if they're convinced because of climate change that the world is going to end, that we need fewer babies. And so then if we sterilize them, then that's, I have no idea it's just absolutely sickening. Like the number, like 30, 40 years ago, the number of people with gender confusion was like 1 in 1,000. And now you're having so many do it, you know, like one Hollywood actress had 3 different children that had it. It's like, it sounds like
a little engineering there, a little social engineering going on for sure.
Yeah, sorry, we got a lot to cram in today. We're going to go a little bit long, but I did want to get, because I don't want this to go out because we had a couple of people ask about it. So Pope Francis got back on a plane, and every time Pope Francis gets on a plane and says something, it almost never is received properly. So there's 2 comments, and I had a couple of emails about this. I want to address it. Again, we're going to go a little bit long, so thanks for hanging out with us here. But the first one, so Pope Francis was speaking to the children in Singapore, and there's some interesting translation things on this, but I'm just going to give a baseline and then we can talk about it. The quote is, "All religions are paths to reach God. They are, to make a comparison, like different languages, different dialects to get there, but God is God for everyone. If you start to fight saying, my religion is more important than yours, mine is true and yours isn't, where will this lead us? There's only one God, and each of us has a language to arrive at God. Some are Sikh, Muslim, Hindu, Christians. There are different ways to God. They are different ways to God. Important." And again, he's saying this, they needed to translate into Italian, and there was a different translation actually. So I pulled up after the interview, they translated it back because all of this is very confusing. So the beginning of this was, one of the things that has impressed me most about the young people here in Singapore is your capacity for interfaith dialogue. This is very important because if you start arguing my religion is more important than yours, or mine is the true one, yours is not true, where does this lead? Or young person answers destruction. This is correct. All religions are paths to God. I will use an analogy. They are like different languages that express the divine, but God is for everyone, and therefore we are all God's children. But my God is more important than yours. Is this true? There's only one God, and religions are like languages, paths to reach God. Some Sikh, some Muslim, some Hindu, some Christian. Understood? ? So that was the revised translation. Thoughts?
Okay. We have thumbs down, from Josh. Oh, we have the bubble.
Okay.
Thumbs down from Josh for the visual. This could have been settled with one additional sentence. He could have said, I pray that children of all religions find their way on their path to Jesus Christ, who is the fullness of God's revelation and the only gate to salvation, and whose teachings come to us through the Catholic Church, of which I am the supreme pontiff.
Yeah, right.
Like, it could have been this was so simple. Just tie it up, buddy. Because again, like you some people are arguing, well, he's using the language of paths and languages, and he's talking about how God wants all people to be saved. Right. And the teaching of the Catholic Church is that salvation comes only through Jesus Christ, whose name did not come up in this. And I think, yeah, people's heads exploded a little bit, and rightly so, because this is another example of it's a reckless way of speaking at best. Maybe he's old, maybe you can excuse it for that, but he is the vicar of Christ. He is the heir of Saint Peter, the rock of the church, who died for the faith, just steps from where Pope Francis resides in Rome, and he couldn't bring up the name of Jesus Christ. It
doesn't seem like a name he's too familiar with.
It doesn't. Yes.
It would be good for the church just to kind of study up on the case of Pope Honoris, who would say a lot of stuff and was condemned by his successor, Pope St. Leo II, and 3 ecumenical councils. So the idea that popes can't make errors, well, that would be a mistake, and that would be an error in itself. So I'm looking forward to the next pope having to do a lot of cleanup. We need to elect a janitor because there's clean up in aisle 3 again.
Cardinal Sarah.
I mean, he's just like, it'd be great. Cardinal Sarah would be great. I still think it's going to be the Hungarian Cardinal Peter Erdo, but the thing is, it's just it does damage. Yeah, it really does. You get there's a lot of Christians in this country who look at that and say, what is going on here? Is that what Catholics really believe? And we're having to be like, no, actually, he's teaching error right now. And it's like, I thought you guys were big on the Pope, as a guardian of truth and not like. Yeah. That's normally what they're supposed to do, rather than preach heresy. It's kind of boring. So all these other Protestants who are like, if this is what Catholics about, then they think, well, that's probably not true.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it's such a common.
It's like an anti-evangelist,
Right. It's almost like it feels like the church is ashamed of itself, and it never should be, right? Because victory is always in the crucified Christ. And the interfaith dialogue thing is so annoying. I see there's a place for it, of course, but when it's emphasized above the central message of the gospel, what are we doing here? You're
not doing Jesus and St. Peter any favors by downplaying it. Like,
no.
Do you not realize that the sacraments that the church has are medicine for people who are sinners who need it? Do you not think that the Eucharist and being in communion with Jesus physically is good? Do you not believe that confession has a sacramental property to it? Like, it's not just like a therapy session. If you really believe in the sacraments, then you have an obligation to say, yes, actually, the Catholic Church is the place for you and for everyone in humankind, everyone in mankind.
Yeah, you in Singapore.
Exactly.
Yeah, and people were trying to
next rule. No more Jesuit popes.
Sorry. Erica, I want to hear from you on that one.
No, I was just going to say the whole my religion is all religions are paths to reach God. And of course, he lists the Sheiks and the Muslims, the Hindus, Christians, because that's where he's visiting. But just extend that. Let's use our brains and think about and extend it. Does that mean the Aztec religion was a path to reach God? Child sacrifice? Does that mean the Canaanites? Does that mean that the Punic War or the Punic Wars, the Carthaginians with Moloch and throwing children into the flames? Oh, it's just another path to God. They're just throwing babies in the flame. It's so ignorant and short-sighted. He ends up sounding condescending to everyone.
I really tried to go give him as much credit as possible. I saw defenders for referencing Catechism of the Catholic Church 843. The Catholic Church recognizes in other religions that search among shadows and images for the God who is unknown, yet near, since he gives life and breath and all things and wants all men to be saved. Thus, the church considers all goodness and truth found in these religions as, quote, a preparation for the gospel and given by him who enlightens all men that they may at length have life. Now, of course, the big thing missing was the last quote. Right.
A preparation for the gospel through which they will have life once they embrace it.
A little tired of being embarrassed. And then that was
I just would like to have more bishops put some, even if it's a polite and respectful distance from some of these statements, because it's like,
Strickland did, but
give me a break. You know what's going to happen though? Well, eventually Pope Francis will either resign or go to the house of his father, and I'll just take a beat on that. And then we'll have a new pope, and then the Pope will make statements that respectfully kind of undo, what Pope Francis has did. And then all these bishops will say, yeah, that's a better clarification. Yeah, good job. When the next Pope finally cleans up all the messes and makes it clear what we actually stand for. And what that's going to remind me of the time when my friend was dating this real dirtbag, and I came up to her and I said, you got to get rid of this guy. He's horrible. And she's like, really? You think so? I said, yeah, get rid of him. He's a dirtbag. And she finally dumps him. And then as soon as she dumps him, she's like, thanks, Josh. You're the only one who ever told me this. Seriously, no less than 15, 20 people came up to her and said, oh, I'm so glad you got rid of that dirtbag. He was so bad. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me this guy was bad? That's what I feel like is going to happen with all these bishops 3 years from now. They're going to be like, oh, my gosh, yeah, so much better. Yeah, so great. Like, why aren't you saying something now when we can really use it?
Josh,
why do we have to rely on Ed Fazer and no one else?
Seriously,
what's really going on with their church?
Shout out to Ed.
Are you in the mental space for me to bring up his comments on the American election?
Bring it. Just bring it. Let's just do it.
Again, this is going to go a little bit long, but
why not?
He's on the plane. He's on the plane and he's talking to reporters.
No.
Okay, so a reporter asked a question about how Catholics should decide between a candidate who supports abortion rights and another who has pledged mass deportation of migrants. Again, check the language, abortion rights. The pontiff insisted he could not tell Catholics how to vote and that, quote, everyone with a conscience should think about this and do it. I'm like, okay, good start. And then he adds, they are both against life. The one who throws away the migrants as well as the one who kills children, said the Pope. Both are against life. One must choose the lesser of two evils. Who is the lesser of two evils? That lady or that gentleman? I do not know.
What an epic fail again. Someone's like, I think we have too many migrants. We need to start returning them to their home country. The other one's like, we need to murder children. And the ones who survive, we need to mutilate their genitals. You can't tell me that one is worse than the other? Maybe it's time to hang up the hat. Hang up the skull cap, buddy. Retire. That's a thing now. Popes can retire. Just do it, bro.
There's a 0% chance he fully understands what's going on in America.
Yeah, I think Ed Fezer made that point on Twitter this weekend.
There's no way this Pope is ignorant.
He doesn't care about the United. He doesn't like the United States.
Right, exactly.
I'm with Pogo on this one.
The United States. He does, and he does dislike conservatives in the United States.
Right,
that's obvious.
Right, but I don't think I don't think he understands. I don't know. I just think
not ignorance.
Okay,
there's no way there's ignorance.
Erica.
No way.
But what this did was it gave fodder to our friends over at the National Catholic Reporter. And here's their take on it. I love this. Okay, quote. I'm quoting, guys. Don't say I said this. The Pope's rejection of single issue voting, while consistent with his previous teachings on how Catholics should engage in political life, stands in contrast to the official position of the U.S. Bishops' Conference that declares abortion to be the preeminent priority for Catholic voters. Okay, do you see, that's end quote, they are deliberately using the Pope's words to drive a rift between the Vatican and the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. They love to sow this division, and maybe there is division. I think Pope Francis on an airplane will probably next time he's on an airplane say the opposite. Honestly, he also says abortion is like hiring a hitman. Yep. So who knows what he'll say tomorrow. But the NCR just takes that and they're like, oh, look, all you bishops, wag the finger. You are at odds with Pope Francis, who rejects single issue voting.
Although I did agree with Catholics for Choice for the first time ever, not on their conclusion, but in premise.
Twilight Zone early.
Twilight Zone early. They came out and said, we are very disappointed in Pope Francis's statements. We are 501c3, so we can't comment on specifics. But and I was like, oh, I'm a little frustrated too. And then they said they were mad that Harris was equated to Trump in any way, shape, or form. So they're like, it should not be single issue because abortion should be available as reproductive health care, and Trump is so evil on the border. So at least we started in the same place, but we ended in two different places. I do think this is definitely a crowning moment for Catholic progressives for fully equating immigration and abortion, because really any serious Catholic thinker would see abortion as described by the bishops, the preeminent issue of our time, as quite literally murder in the womb of our mothers, as opposed to wanting to have a coherent border policy and returning illegal immigrants to their homes. There's no comparison. But the fact that this is even being thought of by the Pope as somewhat equated, and many people outside, actually funny, the reaction from outside the church on this was, why do we care what some guy in Rome has to say, non-Catholic? So everyone was mad about it. He successfully made the right Catholics, left Catholics, and everyone mad all at the same time. Like, this is just
which he would see as a good thing, just to put that out there.
He likes
to mess things up,
you get these weird things where it's like, if I make everyone mad, maybe I'm telling the truth, or maybe you're just saying something stupid.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's also an option.
All right, so we got to, we're already a little past. I do want to do the Twilight Zone because I got some fun. So, Josh, you're up first.
Well, I mean, I feel like several of my Twilight Zones were stolen just because of regular coverage, but I just love on X or Twitter, as I still like to call it. They do these fact checks, So the Seattle Times tweeted out, Trump falsely claimed during the presidential debate Tuesday that protesters took over a big section of Seattle during the Capitol Hill organized protests in 2020. So they have this feature on X or Twitter called Community Notes, where people gather around and then they flag something and say, no, actually, and basically readers are able to fact check it. So the people on Twitter were fact checking the Seattle Times. And what do they use as proof that it really did happen? Articles from the Seattle Times. You got fact checked by yourself.
I love community notes.
You've played yourself.
Never play yourself, DJ Khaled.
That's awesome.
It's almost like the lying needs to get better. I'm really disappointed in the quality of the lies from legacy media. They're not even trying to clean up. It's still on the website. It's one Google search away. Crazy, man. It's insulting. I'm insulted. Erica.
Oh my gosh.
Your thoughts on?
Well, I hate to drag this out, but since we were in church corner today, I'm going to go with we have a synodal struggle session coming up.
It's kind of been a while.
So I know, right? And everyone forgets because we're in the middle of an election. World leaders are getting shot on their golf course. It's very easy to get distracted, but we are still, as Catholics, in the middle of synod season. And we have the Synod on Synodality will be reconvening very shortly in the next 3 weeks, I believe, the beginning of October. And one of the opening events the Vatican just rolled out is a mass confession-style gathering called a penitential celebration, where the people participating will confess sins in the name of all the baptized. So we're off the hook, guys. They're going to confess our sins in our name.
That's like 4D confession.
Yeah.
What?
Sort of.
You can't confess
here's what
for
they're
me.
going to confess. We already have the list, Tom. We have the list of sins.
Oh my gosh.
We are going to confess, the churches in particular, on behalf of all the baptized, the sin against peace, the sin against creation, sins against indigenous populations and against migrants, sins of abuse, sins against women, family. I mean, this is just like a list from Identity Politics, Marxism 101. Sin of using doctrine as stones to be hurled. Mercer, you've been put on notice.
Yeah, Josh.
Your sins of using doctrine as stones to be hurled at the vulnerable peoples of the world, they will be confessed for you on your behalf in St. Peter's Square. This is...
Should I be mad or happy? They're covering some ground for me, potential surface area. Should I be mad or happy? I don't know.
You should be feeling collective shame.
It's
and
like
the thing
Mormon is saying that they baptized me. I'm fine.
I'm chilling.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a return to pagan ritual. I was trying to come up with words for this.
You don't have to overthink it, though, Erica. I think they're just trying to make the church so boring that people quit.
Yeah,
it is a strategy.
It is. Let's shrink that church. One. Oh my gosh. But this whole like guilt by association, corporate guilt, corporate sin, corporate confession, this is antithetical to the idea of personal responsibility. It's cheap grace. This is self-righteous catharsis from Marxists who have infiltrated the church, and it needs to be totally rejected, mocked, and we need to walk far away from
Can we trademark that term?
Auspicious.
Corporate confession? That kind of goes hard.
Corporate confession.
I like that one.
Yeah.
We might need to trademark that one. I'll talk to the lawyers.
I think the Vatican already did.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, so I'll start with more fun because we had a heavy show. I found a funny meme of the week. Maybe I'll share a meme of the week. I don't know. But I feel this very personally. The caption is, "My son, Dad, let's go to the park. Me, I can take you tomorrow. my son looming over me at 5 a.m. the next morning, I summon you to fulfill your oath. And it is
Aragorn.
Yeah, it's someone from Lord of the Rings. I don't even know. That was a
Lord of the Rings.
Aragorn.
What is this?
Was it The Hobbit
I'm
or something?
so excited you did a Lord of the Rings meme.
Wait, was
Pogo.
it The Hobbit or not?
No, this is Lord of the Rings.
Was this Harry Potter?
This is the Return of the King. That is King Aragorn summoning the dead to fulfill their oath.
Because people
so
were
they can
mad
rest in peace.
that we did say we didn't really watch Lord of the Rings when you were not on. So I felt like this is a good opportunity to give you some time. But my son does this to me on a daily basis. He's in a big park phase. And if I do not fulfill my oath, I am reminded of it quite frequently. But that is not my Twilight Zone. My Twilight Zone is I'm very excited. Well, that's not really why I'm in Twilight Zone. But my Twilight Zone is I saw that a California theater pulled Am I Racist from screens. Screens terrified of this film. So I was looking into Am I Racist just as a commercial success because that, of course, is all the talk. People like to use box offices as a gauge of success, which, of course, isn't always true, but kind of a good marker. And so I looked into this, and just the fact that this is in theaters is pretty awesome because I don't think What is a Woman was, at least not on a widespread basis.
It was not, yeah.
But to see people react to the signs and stuff is really funny. Like, what is this movie? Because they do have a very provocative one. But if you look at performance-wise, I looked. In the opening weekend, we have 3 options. Speak No Evil came in first. Am I Racist in second? And then Killer's Game in third. That's for movies that opened on this weekend. So doing very well. The fact that it's being pulled is hilarious. But my personal favorite, I'm not going to ruin too much of it because I'm going to go see it tomorrow, but I have seen some clips. And the one that did make me laugh, which I'm sure there's going to be many. So Matt Walsh got ABC4 Utah to do a anti-racist experience on air. Or sorry, it's not going to show. Going to get it to work here. Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we got anyone joining from Utah.
What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. Okay, so you're decentering your whiteness. You're stretching out of your whiteness. And you're bringing those other experiences into yourself. And you're stretching out.
This is on Good Things.
And the women are
Utah.
just doing it.
Now, immediately what I thought when I saw this, the fact that he got a local news station, I was like, what is the vetting process? And is there any vetting process? And he went on the Morning Wire and was talking about it. It was cracking me up. He said he just reached out to all these places and didn't use his last name and said, "Hi, I'm Matt, DEI expert," is how he used his title. If there was, this should kind of scare people a little bit. If there was one conservative in that newsroom, that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
But because there was not a single conservative in there who knew who Matt Walsh was, who could see past the cheap wig, and they got. And I was thinking about this, how easy it was for him to go and ask people. He's like, yeah, we cast a wide net. We asked all the biggest people. And I think he paid Robin DiAngelo $15,000 to sit down for 2 hours. And of course, when the money's up, not too many questions are asked. But her and many other people featured in the film have deleted their Twitter accounts. And so I'd just like to give a shout out to Robin DiAngelo for decolonizing a service owned by an African-American, Elon Musk. Congratulations. She was one of many who have decolonized the platform.
Well tweeted, Tommy.
That's awesome. That's a good one, Tom.
I'm looking forward to
it's interesting that the news station was Salt Lake, because we assume Utah, very conservative, but the Salt Lake City itself is a liberal enclave full of a bunch of probably ex-Mormons or not that very pious Mormons. And they have, again, when I talked about that suburban white guilt, they have it writ large. That was why everyone's like, Evan McMuffin has a chance of winning Utah. Like, give me a break. It's not like you're finding rock solid conservatives out of Utah, except for Mike Lee. He's like an aberration. Mm-hmm. Most of them are like the Mitt Romney types. Mitt Romney cleans up in Utah because that's the kind of voters they have there. They're just a bunch of wimps.
Yeah. But I'm happy to give you guys my report. I'm going to see it tomorrow.
You're going to see it?
Going to see it tomorrow. I'll have a full report for Wednesday. Very excited to find out if I, in fact, am a racist. So, and then the Synod can confess that for me if I find out, in fact, I am a racist.
Already on the list.
Corporate confession. But yeah, thanks for hanging around for the longer show today. Usually when presidents get assassination attempts, we got a little bit more to talk about. So we got another show locked in Wednesday for you guys. If you want to help out, leave a review, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, 5 stars if you please. You can like and subscribe here at YouTube. The audience is growing. It's super exciting. If you want to email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org is where you can do that. Become a champion, support the show. It's the only way we're able to do what we do here. Thank you so much to all of our champions. I'm going to get to answering some emails today. But of course, pray for us. Best thing you can do for us. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, St. Fidelis, pray for us.